Childhood No More, Time to Scale. I'm very lucky to have Jenny presenting. She's done a lot of presentations at TEDx Melbourne, is that correct? In the past, so we're very lucky to have her here speaking to this intimate group of fantastic educators. So thank you, Jenny,
right,
and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so I've called this Lonely Childhood No More and Time to Scale because it will unravel as we go through as to why that is the case. So in 2008, I was working as a teacher librarian in a school, and I was trying to sort of evoke change within our community. And I was reading posts from many people online, and one of the things that I read was from a guy called Hugh McLeod, who writes a blog called Gaping Void, and he used to illustrate in the back of napkins, and then he turned it into a business card service, and now he's actually, has an illustrious career that basically, making himself a fortune and very happy in his career. But he had this fantastic line that he was talking about when I was reading something, and he said, good ideas have lonely childhoods. Okay, and he talks about how the more out there it initially seems to other people, even people you like and respect, there's a time in the beginning when you have to press on alone without 1/10 of the support that you probably need. And that was feeling really, really true for me at this time in the school that I was working in. At the time of this, I've just finished this technology project, an inquiry project with Year 7s. We were using Movie Maker and all different kinds of sort of technologies to create some sort of artefact of the work we've been doing, and everything went wrong. It was 2008. Everything went wrong with Windows Movie Maker in 2008, believe you me. And it was a week of what seemed like total disaster. But on reflection, there was a hell of a lot of learning that took place. And at the end of that week, I wrote this blog post, and I said at the end of this blog post, in reference to what Hugh McLeod had said, I feel like I'm in the playground, sitting in the sand tree, pretty much alone right now in terms of my friends. Friends will come, they always do. They're just hanging around the fringes. I need to draw a few more lines in the sand to attract a crowd. I'll keep at it. And that was 2008. And it's 2015 now, and I am keeping at it. But I kind of think that there's some things going on in our schools, because I kind of worry about schools where I hear stories of teachers who have no access to anything, there's no devices in their classrooms, the infrastructure's not there to support them. It really feels like we've got this amazing party going on out there, that we've got this internet that's alive with so much connectivity and so much learning that our students can be doing. But in schools, it seems like a vague but exciting idea. And this is what Tim Berners-Lee faced when this was his paper about the internet and what the internet was, and he submitted it to his supervisor, and his supervisor came back and said, vague but exciting. We know it's a very exciting prospect, and it should be an exciting prospect in our schools. It should be that technology is interwoven into everything that we do, and that our pedagogy is facilitated by great access to technology. The recent Horizon report has just been released, and I found it a really fascinating document, perhaps more fascinating than ever before in some of the things that they've identified. And one of the things that really rang true for me was reading this part about scaling teacher innovation. Because I've been in the space of scaling teacher innovation in my what is now previous school, trying to work at scale, not just with one teacher in one classroom, and not just me being the innovator, but at scale to move everybody along. And that's demanding. And they describe that as a wicked challenge, okay? A challenge that is complex to define, much even less address. And I'd recommend that you go and have a read of the Horizon report to read more about this. And they're talking about pedagogical change here. And of course, pedagogical change, I see it as totally supported by technology in the classroom. In my view, I am a teacher who uses technology in every instance in every classroom that I work in. It's part and parcel of what I do. It's how I deliver my curriculum. It doesn't mean that it's the purpose of my curriculum. It means it's there to facilitate my curriculum. But it's absolutely essential to what I do, and it's got to be made easier for teachers in our schools today. Because what they say here, it requires the removal, to scale change, to scale this pedagogical change that's required in our classrooms, it requires the removal of restrictive policies that are hampering us, that are holding us back. It requires adequate funding. It requires capable leadership and strong evaluation practices. And I absolutely dead set agree with this statement. And I've lived this statement and tried to sort of make this happen in my school. And the reality is that many teachers are not prepared to lead innovative, effective practice, and there is a kaleidoscope of systemic factors that must be addressed to resolve that complex issue. And I often see people out there in this education community, people who are doing wonderful things in their classrooms, but they're not stepping up into leadership. They're not taking that next step and challenging themselves and taking themselves into a leadership position whereby they then become the people who help make the change happen at scale. And I think that that is a real challenge for us. And I think that at places like this conference, there is the ability of many people in these rooms to make this kind of change at scale, if they set their minds to it and if they've got the guts to go for it, because it requires guts. I read Michael Fullan's book, Stratosphere, and I would suggest people read this. And in this I read about, this quote really sits at the forefront of my thinking and has done so for the past few years now. In fact, the past 2.5, 3 years of my life, I've had this sitting at the very front of it. So the integration of technology and pedagogy to maximise learning, it must meet 4 criteria. It must be irresistibly engaging, elegantly efficient, challenging but easy to use, technologically ubiquitous, and steeped in real-life problem solving. And any kind of innovation I've tried to do in my school at scale has had to meet those criteria. And I've certainly, I would suggest that you think about that in terms of what you do in your schools. Because you do need the right tools. Yes, the pedagogy, yes, how we do it in our classroom, all of that is up to us, but we need tools to support us. And you need tools at systemic level in a school that are there to support you. And you need those people who are those visionary leaders, who can bring people with them, carry them along, take them with them for the ride. You need your tech teams to be thinking about your infrastructure. One of the things that we sort of did at the school that I was at was that we really made sure our infrastructure was right before we launched into leveraging the power of the cloud. We had to make sure that we were going to be able to deliver what it was we said we were going to be able to do. And then you need to think about things, particularly in today's world, I would say, around device selection. We need to make it affordable and accessible, particularly for our schools in our low socioeconomic areas. We need to be starting to make decisions so that there is access for everyone, because equity is an issue. And if there is a problem with equity in our schools, and if it is a low socioeconomic area, then our government really does need to step in and provide extra support to schools so that they can do this kind of work. And we need to look more at delivery through the browser and less of this loading software onto our computers. The more we can deliver through the browser, the more we can provide affordable solutions, like a Chromebook, for instance, where you just need access to browsers and can work off a $300 device. Because scale does afford opportunity, okay? And opportunity is what our students need. If they're going to walk into a world where artificial intelligence is changing everything, where potentially in 10 to 15 years we may see the demise of many jobs that now exist in our society that may just be completely rubbed out as we see more automation move through. We need kids with entrepreneurial spirit, we need kids who have resilience, we need kids who can redefine themselves, and they need to understand how they work with the internet to do that. They need to have presence in those spaces. They need to know how to develop that presence so that they can actually go out there and, terrible word to say, but market themselves. They need to be able to do that. We need less likelihood of this in our classrooms. School should not be a lottery. It shouldn't be a lottery that you got the teacher who had those skills and knew how to use the tools, and therefore you walked out of school with this sense of how you go about doing things. It should be that we have across the board, at scale, our teachers understanding how to use these tools so that every single kid in every single school can walk out of that school understanding how you use this technology to its best effect. At the moment, I think that we're seeing probably instances where there are what I would describe as outlier teachers doing brilliant work in their classrooms, but you might not be the lucky kid who gets the outlier teacher, and you may never get them in that period of time that you march through a school system. And that's a damn shame. We need to change that. If I think about the things that we did at my school, the things that we made decisions about what we were going to do. So it was the LMS, first of all. Some sort of learning management system. You can create that any way you like. You don't have to go with a out-of-the-box model. You can use a Google site. You can do something and create a learning management system where your resources and your curriculum delivery come from. And then we made decisions about the collaborative tool set that we were going to use, and we used Google Apps for that because, in my view, it was the best productivity tool that was out there. And then, to support our teachers to gain high visibility into the student drive documents, we used a para-teacher dashboard, which gave high visibility and then the opportunity for feedback and formative assessment, that sort of critical piece. And those were the core tools. That was what I said to staff. You need to know these 3 things. You need to know how to use the learning management system, you need to know how to use Google Docs well, and you need to know how to access it through a para-teacher dashboard. That brought people on at scale because we weren't overwhelming them with way too much. There were even some of our teachers who were not really keen on technology moved into that space because they could see a need for it, and they also could see the ease of access. It fit into that Michael Fullan criteria that I talked about earlier on. And if you don't know how to do it, think about looking at the work of Simon Sinek. Okay, he's got a fantastic video that it's a TED talk that was done at a TEDx conference, but has been viewed millions of times. And he talks about starting with why. So you need to start with the story. You need to tell the story to your community. Why are we doing this? What is the need for this? The story needs to be told. We need to sell that to our people so that we can get people on board. We need a lot of onboarding with this. Well, you need to know how you're going to go about doing it, and then you've got to know what it is that you're actually going to do. But that why piece is critical, and I would suggest that everybody understands the why in extreme depth so that you can actually articulate this not only to your baseline teachers, but also to your executive teams. The executive teams in the school who need to be coerced and need to be moved into thinking about these things. Because we do need to move the masses. It is important to move the masses right now. It's not about just touching base with the 5 teachers in your school who are doing great stuff. It's about the 50 to the 100 people in your school. Everybody needs to be doing great stuff today, and we need to be helping them do that. Because if we do that, they'll come. There'll be a sandpit, and it'll be full of people, and there'll be a lonely childhood no more. Thank you.